All the women fell for the Korean Mafia boss, but only the black bartender refused him. Picture this. Seoul's most dangerous man sits alone at a bar in his own club, surrounded by a dozen women who would kill for his attention. But his eyes are locked on the only woman in the room who won't even look at him. The bartender. Black. American. Untouchable. She pours his whiskey with hands that don't tremble, meets his gaze with eyes that hold no fear. And when he speaks to her, she responds with the kind of cold professionalism that's more insulting than any curse word could ever be. What he doesn't know is that she's not there to mix drinks. She's there to destroy him. This is the story of Kang Yuchan, third-generation heir to the Biko clan, the White Tiger Syndicate that controls Seoul's underworld like a vice grip. And Naomi Chen, a woman with a missing brother, 18 months of carefully constructed lies, and a patience that would terrify anyone who knew what she was really planning. It's a story about obsession and revenge. About the dangerous game that starts when a predator mistakes his hunter for prey. About what happens when the one person who refuses to fall is the only person who matters. The Crimson Lotus nightclub pulses with life every night. Red velvet walls. Crystal chandeliers throwing fractured light across marble floors. The air thick with imported cigars, expensive perfume, and the metallic edge of danger that makes Seoul's elite feel alive. This is where power meets pleasure. Where politicians' daughters brush shoulders with gang enforcers. Where everyone wears a mask and the only currency that matters is proximity to the man at the center of it all.
Kang Yuchan.
32 years old and carved from stone. Sharp jawline that could cut glass. Obsidian eyes that miss nothing. Hands that sign death warrants between breakfast and lunch, then caress a whiskey glass with unexpected gentleness by evening. Women orbit him like planets around a dark sun. Designer gowns and desperate smiles. Calculated touches and rehearsed laughter. They compete in a game where the prize is his attention and the cost is everything they thought they were before they entered his world. He stopped seeing them as people years ago. Chess pieces. Beautiful. Interchangeable. Useful for alliances. Good for appearances. Ultimately forgettable. And then Naomi Chen walked behind his bar. Not Korean. Not trying to be. Black American with Chinese heritage, carrying a bartending resume that speaks 5 languages and a cocktail portfolio that borders on art. His floor manager hired her without permission, a decision that almost got the man killed until Yuchan tasted her old-fashioned and recognized genius when it touched his tongue. But here's what makes Naomi dangerous. It's not her skill, not her precision, not even the way she moves behind that bar like she owns it. It's her absolute immunity to him. For months she's worked at the Crimson Lotus, and not once has she smiled at him the way other women do. No lingering glances. No accidental touches when she serves his drinks. No questions about his life or obvious attempts to crack the code of his attention. She treats him exactly like every other customer. Professionally. Efficiently. With a courtesy that somehow feels more cutting than contempt. Your usual Mr. Kang. That's it. That's all he gets. Whiskey set down with surgeon steady hands. No honorifics beyond the basic. No deference beyond what the job requires. Then she's gone, attending to the next customer like he's invisible. It's driving him insane. And everyone notices. The women in his VIP section whisper behind their cocktails. The men in his organization exchange careful glances. Because Kang Yuchan doesn't chase. Kang Yuchan doesn't ask twice. Kang Yuchan certainly doesn't sit at the bar every single night watching a bartender who won't even pretend to be impressed by him. But he does now. What nobody knows, what Yuchan can't possibly know, is that Naomi Chen has her own reasons for being in Seoul. Reasons that have nothing to do with bartending. Everything to do with the brother who disappeared into the city's underworld 3 years ago and never came out. The brother whose last known location was a warehouse owned by the Biko clan. 18 months she's been building this cover. Learning the language. Perfecting her craft. Positioning herself exactly where she needs to be. Behind the bar where Seoul's most powerful men get careless after their 3rd drink. Where secrets flow as freely as alcohol. where a patient woman with clever ears can piece together exactly what happened to the people who crossed the White Tiger Syndicate. Naomi has no interest in falling for the Korean mafia boss. She's there to destroy him. But first she has to get close. And Kang Yuchan, for all his power and perception, just showed her exactly how to do it. His fascination with the one woman who refuses him. Before we dive deeper into this collision of obsession and revenge, I want to be upfront. This video took over 12 hours of research, writing, and editing to create. If you value the hard work behind these stories, hitting that subscribe button would mean so much. Now, let's get started. Because this game? It's only just beginning. And someone's going to end up destroyed. The game begins the next night. Yuchan returns to the bar with a question that sounds casual but isn't. Where did you learn to pour like that? Naomi doesn't look up from the cocktail she's building. New Orleans. Then Atlanta. Then Tokyo before here. Facts without stories. Information without intimacy. Why Seoul? She finally glances at him. Why not? Then she's gone, moving down the bar like he's no more interesting than the ice machine.
Most men would take the hint.
Most men aren't Kang Yuchan. He comes back the next night. And the next.
And the next.
Always the same seat. Always watching her work with an intensity that makes his security team exchange nervous glances. Because this doesn't fit the pattern. The boss doesn't chase. The boss doesn't need to. But here he is, night after night, studying a woman who shows zero interest in being studied. The other women notice immediately. They always notice. Whispers spread through the VIP section like poison through bloodstream.
Who is she?
What makes her special? Is she his new favorite? His secret lover? Someone with leverage they don't know about. Ji-won, an actress with connections to 3 different politicians, leans close to her friend. 4 nights in a row at the bar. He's never done that for anyone. Maybe she's playing hard to get, her friend suggests. Ji-won's laugh is sharp. Nobody plays games with Kang Yuchan. You either want him or you're irrelevant. There's no middle ground. But Naomi has found one. She's created a space where his power doesn't reach, where his name carries no weight, where the only thing that matters is whether you tip well and don't make her job harder than it needs to be. It's driving him crazy. And she knows it. One weekend, Yuchan does something he hasn't done in years. He asks for a favor. Make me something you've never made before, he says. Something that matches what you see when you look at me. Naomi pauses. Really looks at him for the first time since she started working there. Her dark eyes assess him with the same precision she uses measuring spirits. Weighing him against some internal scale he can't see. What she creates is beautiful and brutal. Japanese whiskey with black walnut bitters, a touch of honey, and activated charcoal that turns the entire drink obsidian black. It tastes like smoke and endings, like power that comes at a cost. She sets it before him with careful deliberation. Expensive ingredients hiding something bitter, sweet enough to go down easy, dark enough that you never really see what you're swallowing. The observation cuts deeper than any insult. Because it's true. Yuchan finds himself smiling. Really smiling for the first time in months. You see clearly. I see what people show me. She turns away, but not before he catches something in her expression. Not interest, but acknowledgement. For the first time, she's seen him as more than just another customer. That's when things start to shift. The women in the VIP section escalate their efforts. Perfume gets heavier. Dresses get shorter. Touches become more insistent. As if volume could compete with the one thing they lack. The ability to see Yuchan as something other than power wrapped in expensive suits. Ji-won makes her move on a Thursday night. She approaches the bar during a quiet moment, designer heels clicking against marble. Whatever you think you're doing with him, it won't last. Naomi continues polishing a glass. Thanks for the insight. He collects interesting things until they bore him. Ji-won continues. Her voice drips with practiced sweetness. Then he discards them. You're just the flavor of the month. The exotic novelty, who doesn't worship him. Naomi finally looks at her. Really looks. With eyes that have seen too much to be intimidated by pretty cruelty. Is that what happened to you? Ji-won's face flushes with rage. You don't know what you're playing with. His world eats women like you alive. And women like you? Naomi sets down the glass, leaning slightly forward. What does it do to them? The question hangs between them, sharp and dangerous. Ji-won retreats without answering. But the damage is done. The whispers grow louder. The stares more hostile. The air in the Crimson Lotus thickens with jealousy and resentment. Conversations stop when Naomi approaches. Customers start making complicated orders, then complaining they're wrong. Other staff begin isolating her, sensing which way the wind blows. But Naomi ignores it all with practiced ease. Because she's dealt with worse. Much worse. What she doesn't ignore is Yuchan's response. He sees everything. Notices how his world is turning against her. And one night, he makes his position crystal clear. A group of businessmen take seats at the bar. Already drunk. Expensive watches. Designer suits. The casual cruelty of men who believe money excuses behavior. One leans too close to Naomi as she serves their drinks. Where'd Yuchan find you? Some African import market. His friend laughs. Exotic tastes for exotic times. Naomi's expression doesn't change. Not a flicker. Not a flinch. She simply places his drink down with precise force. Just hard enough that liquid sloshes over the rim onto his expensive sleeve. Apologies, she says flatly. Hand slipped. The man's face darkens. You little problem. Yuchan's voice cuts through the noise like a blade through silk. The entire bar freezes. The businessman pales, suddenly remembering whose club he's sitting in, whose air he's breathing. No, sir. Just a small spill. Then I suggest you clean it up, Yuchan says softly. And apologize to my head bartender for your carelessness. The command hangs in the air. Absolute. The man stammers an apology that Naomi doesn't even acknowledge. She continues working as if he doesn't exist. Later, after closing, Yuchan finds her counting bottles in the stockroom. You didn't need to intervene, she says without looking up. I handle worse every night. I know. He leans against the doorframe. That wasn't for you. Now she looks up, eyes narrowing slightly. Then what was it for? My boundaries, he says simply. Some things aren't tolerated in my club. Your club? She repeats the words like they taste unfamiliar. Is that what this place is to you? Just territory. The question catches him off guard. Nobody asks him things like that. Direct, uncalculated questions about how he sees the world. It's one of many, he answers finally. But yes, territory matters. And people? Her eyes stay steady on his. Are they territory too? The air between them thickens with unspoken accusations. Yuchan recognizes the challenge in her question. The moral judgment beneath the surface. Most people fear him, too much to judge. Most people aren't Naomi Chen. People make choices, he says quietly. Territory doesn't. She studies him for a long moment, as if calculating something complex. Then she simply nods and returns to her inventory. Not agreement. Not acceptance. Just acknowledgement that she's heard him. It's not enough. For the first time in years, Yuchan feels the strange discomfort of being dismissed, of being seen but not understood. He leaves without another word. But something has shifted between them. Not broken. Not connected. Just changed. The next evening, she's not behind the bar. Yuchan's eyes scan the club twice before he asks his floor manager. Day off, comes the nervous reply. She requested Thursdays permanently. Yuchan nods once, face betraying nothing. But inside, something simmers. She's avoiding him, running. The realization should anger him more. Instead, it deepens his fascination. People run from him, out of fear. Maya runs from complexity. From conversations that expose too much. From truth. That night, he leaves early. His driver takes him through rain-slick streets to a neighborhood called Yongsan. To a small unmarked door tucked between a convenience store and a shuttered pharmacy. Inside, a different kind of darkness awaits. Not the manufactured glamour of the Crimson Lotus. Just the simple shadows of a neighborhood bar. Low lights. Worn wood. Honest drinks for honest people. And there she is, behind a different counter. Same precision. Same focus. Different context. Without the Crimson Lotus's opulence surrounding her, Naomi seems even more substantial. More real. She looks up as the door closes behind him. For a split second, genuine surprise cracks her composure. Then the mask returns.
Smooth.
Impenetrable. We're closed in 20 minutes, she says. Then I'll have something quick. The few remaining patrons glance nervously between them, sensing the tension crackling in the air. One by one, they finish their drinks and leave, until only silence remains. How did you find me? Naomi asks finally, wiping down the already clean bar. I own buildings. You sign leases. He shrugs slightly. Seoul is smaller than it seems. And what brings Seoul's most notorious businessman to a neighborhood dive bar on a Thursday night? Her voice carries an edge he hasn't heard before. Curiosity. The truth slips out before he can shape it into something more strategic. You work for me 6 nights a week, but request Thursdays off to work somewhere else.
Why?
Naomi sets down her towel, facing him directly. Because this place is real. The people are real. They drink because they're happy or sad or tired. Not because they're playing power games or hunting status. She pauses, something vulnerable flickering across her features. And they see me as a person. Not as, she trails off. Not as what, he presses. An accessory. A piece of the environment. A prop in someone else's story. The bitterness in her voice is sudden and sharp, like a blade hidden in silk. Yuchan absorbs the accusation silently. Is that how she sees her position at the Crimson Lotus? As his prop? You're more than that, he says finally. Am I? Her laugh is short, humorless. You don't even know me. I'd like to. The words emerge unbidden, honest in a way he rarely allows himself to be. Naomi stills, studying him with those penetrating eyes.
Why?
What could you possibly want from someone like me? The question hangs between them, heavy with implication. What does he want? In his world, the answer is always simple. Power, control, leverage, the thrill of conquest. But sitting here in this simple bar with its scarred wood and honest shadows, those answers feel hollow. Authenticity, he says finally. In my world, it's rare. Something flickers across her face. Surprise, perhaps. Or recognition. At this point, everything is about to change. But first, are you Team Yuchan or Team Naomi? Let me know in the comments, because what happens next will shock you. She opens her mouth to respond when her phone buzzes loudly on the counter. Glancing at the screen, her expression hardens. I have to lock up now. The moment has passed. The wall rebuilt. Yuchan nods, leaving cash on the bar that would cover every patron's tab for the night. As he stands to leave, he hesitates. The Crimson Lotus isn't all games and illusion, he says quietly. Some things there are real too. She doesn't answer, already turning away to close the register. He leaves without looking back. The night air cools his face. But something has shifted between them. Not broken. Not yet connected. But irrevocably changed. Because what Yuchan doesn't know, what he can't possibly know, is that while he's been watching Naomi, she's been watching him too. Not with fascination. With calculation. Every conversation. Every question. Every moment of vulnerability he's shown. She's been cataloging it all. Building a profile. Mapping his patterns. Finding the cracks in his armor. Because Naomi didn't come to Seoul to fall in love with a Mafia boss. She came to destroy him. And he just gave her exactly what she needs. His trust. Weeks pass like a slow burn. Small changes emerge in the carefully maintained distance between them. Not friendship. Not romance. Something unnamed that exists only in glances and whiskey selections and the careful measure of personal space. Sometimes Naomi places his drink before him, without being asked. Each night a different rare bottle that somehow matches his mood perfectly. Sometimes Yuchan notices details about her. A new hairpin. Tired eyes. A barely perceptible limp after a long shift. And he asks careful questions that she answers with equal care. They're building something fragile between the cracks of their established roles. But fragile things break easily, especially when they're built on lies. It starts with a name Naomi overhears during closing. Two of Yuchan's lieutenants talking in Korean near the private rooms. Thinking the American bartender doesn't understand. The Chen situation from 3 years ago. Her brother's name. Her hands freeze mid-pour. Ice cubes suspended in air for a heartbeat before falling into the glass. Still have the warehouse records? One asks. Burned everything. Boss's orders. Clean sweep. They move away, conversation fading into the club's ambient noise. But Naomi has heard enough. The warehouse. The records. The clean sweep. All ordered by the man who's been sitting at her bar every night, asking about her life, pretending to care about authenticity. The glass in her hand trembles. Just slightly. She sets it down before anyone notices. That night, she doesn't go home after her shift. She goes to the address she's been carrying in her phone for 18 months. The warehouse in Gangnam where her brother's last phone signal pinged before going silent forever. It's abandoned now. Windows broken. Walls covered in graffiti. But Naomi has learned to read the language of violence. She sees the scorch marks where evidence burned. The suspicious stains on concrete that no amount of rain has washed away. This is where her brother died. And Kang Yuchan gave the order to erase every trace. She photographs everything. Documents every detail. The rage building in her chest so intense it feels like suffocation. All those conversations. All those moments of vulnerability he showed her.
Lies.
Manipulation. A predator playing with prey before the kill. She almost laughs at her own stupidity. For a moment, just a brief, dangerous moment, she'd started to believe there might be something real between them. Now she knows better. The next night at the Crimson Lotus, everything has changed. Yuchan notices immediately. Something cold in Naomi's eyes that wasn't there before. A distance that feels less like boundaries and more like walls. Everything all right, he asks. Perfect. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. She serves his whiskey with mechanical precision. No thoughtful selection tonight. Just whatever's closest. He knows something's wrong, but he doesn't know what.
Can't know what.
Because 3 years ago, Marcus Chen was just another name on a list. Another loose end in a territory dispute that got too messy. Yuchan gave the order, because that's what bosses do. Clean up problems before they become catastrophes. He doesn't even remember the name. But Naomi remembers everything. 2 nights later, the fragile thing between them shatters completely. Naomi is closing the bar when she notices someone following her. A man in a dark jacket, trying too hard to look casual. She's not surprised. She's been waiting for this. Been waiting for Yuchan's organization to notice her late-night visit to the warehouse. To realize she's not just a bartender. To understand she's a threat. What surprises her is that Yuchan himself appears at the end of the alley. Call him off, she says flatly. Not afraid. Just tired. Yuchan gestures. The tail disappears into shadows. You went to Gangnam, he says. Not a question. So you do remember. Her voice carries venom. Marcus Chen. Ring any bells? Or was my brother just another body in your empire's foundation? The name hits Yuchan like a physical blow. Chen. The warehouse incident. 3 years ago. His mind races through old files, connecting dots he'd never thought to connect. Your brother worked for the Jang Syndicate, he says slowly. He was in the wrong place when things went south. Wrong place. Naomi's laugh is sharp enough to cut. He was trying to get out. Trying to leave that life. And your people killed him for it. That's not. He stops himself. Because he doesn't know if that's true or not. Doesn't remember the details. Doesn't know if Marcus Chen was collateral damage or a legitimate target. And the not knowing makes it worse. You don't even remember him, Naomi says. Reading his face. That's what makes you truly dangerous. Not the killing. The forgetting. If I'd known.
What?
You would have let him go. She steps closer. Fury radiating off her in waves. Would you have shown mercy? Would you have given him the authenticity you claim to value so much? The questions strike at the core of who Yuchan is.
Who he's always been.
And he has no good answers. I would have made it quick, he says finally. Quietly. That's the only mercy my world allows. Then your world is hell. She turns to leave. He catches her arm. Don't. The word comes out harder than intended. Don't walk away from this. From what? From you. She pulls free. There is no us, Yuchan. There never was. Just a mafia boss and the bartender hunting him. The truth lands between them like a grenade. Hunting me? What did you think this was? Naomi's eyes are cold. You think I stayed in Seoul for the weather? Learned Korean for fun? Took a job at your club by coincidence. She pulls out her phone. Shows him the photographs from the warehouse. I came here to find out what happened to my brother. To get evidence. To make sure the man who killed him faces consequences. Yuchan studies the photos. His mind already calculating. Evidence that could tie him to a murder. Proof that could bring down organizations. Ammunition that could start a war. Are you going to the police? He asks. Would it matter if I did? She challenges. How many cops are in your pocket? How many judges owe you favors? He doesn't answer, because they both know the truth. His reach extends further than justice. So what now? He asks finally. You expose me? Destroy everything I've built? I don't know. And for the first time, Naomi sounds uncertain. I came here with a plan. Find evidence. Ruin you. Watch your empire burn. She pauses, something breaking in her voice. But then you had to be complicated. Had to ask questions and show up at my bar and act like you actually saw me as more than a prop in your world. I did see you, Yuchan says quietly. I do. Past tense. Because this ends tonight. She holds up her phone. I have copies. Multiple backups. If anything happens to me, everything goes public. Consider it insurance. I'm not going to hurt you. You already did. The words cut deeper than any blade. You killed my brother. Everything after that is just details. She walks away. This time, he doesn't stop her. Stands alone in the alley as rain begins to fall. Cold soul rain that tastes like regret. I need to pause here because what you're about to witness changed everything. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between safety and doing what's right? Share your story below. The next 3 days are the longest of Yuchan's life. Naomi doesn't come to work. Doesn't answer calls. Has disappeared into Seoul's millions like smoke into fog. His organization tracks her to a hotel in Itaewon. But he tells them to back off. Let her breathe. Let her think. Because he's thinking too. About Marcus Chen. About the warehouse. About all the names and faces he's erased from memory because remembering would make it impossible to do what needs to be done. He pulls the old files. Reads the reports. Marcus Chen, 26. Former enforcer for the Jiang Syndicate. Trying to leave the life. Got caught in crossfire during a territorial negotiation that went violent. Yuchan's people hadn't specifically targeted him. But they hadn't saved him either. And afterward, they'd burn the evidence because that's standard procedure. Clean sweeps. No traces. No mercy. Reading it now, 3 years later, Yuchan sees what Naomi saw. A young man trying to escape. Killed by a world that doesn't allow escapes. Erased by an organization that treats human lives like balance sheets. His organization. His order. His responsibility. For the first time in his adult life, Kang Yuchan feels something that might be shame. On the 4th day, Naomi returns to the Crimson Lotus. Not to work. To collect her final paycheck. Yuchan is waiting in his office. I read the file, he says when she enters. She says nothing. Just stands there with walls so high he can't see over them. Your brother was trying to leave. He didn't deserve what happened.
No.
Her voice is flat.
He didn't.
If I could change it. But you can't. She cuts him off. That's the problem with your world, Yuchan. You can control everything except the past. And the past is all I have left of him. Silence stretches between them. heavy with everything unsaid. "I'm not going to expose you," she says finally. His surprise must show because she continues. "Not because you don't deserve it. You do. But because burning down your empire won't bring Marcus back. Won't undo 3 years of grief. Won't fill the hole his absence carved into my life." She takes a breath. "And because I realize something. You're not the villain in this story. You're just a man who inherited a system built on violence and never questioned whether there might be another way." That doesn't excuse. It doesn't excuse anything, she agrees. But it explains it. And maybe that's all I'll ever get. Explanation instead of justice. Yuchan moves toward her. Stops when he sees her flinch. "I can't bring your brother back," he says quietly. "But I can make sure his death meant something. That it changes how I see this world. How I operate in it." Pretty words from a dangerous man. "Then watch me prove them." The intensity in his voice surprises them both. "Give me a chance to be more than what you expected. More than what I've been." Naomi studies him with those penetrating eyes. "You want redemption? I want to deserve the way you looked at me before you knew the truth." The honesty in that statement cracks something in her armor. "I don't know if that's possible," she says softly. "Let me try." She's quiet for so long he thinks she'll refuse. Then she nods once.
"One chance.
"But if you revert, if you show me that this is just another manipulation, I won't hesitate. Evidence goes public. Your world burns." "Understood." She turns to leave, then pauses at the door. "For what it's worth," she says without looking back, "I wish things were different. Wish we'd met in some other life where your hands weren't stained and mine weren't out for blood." Then she's gone, leaving Yuchan alone with the weight of her words and the impossible task before him. Changing who he is while remaining powerful enough to survive. Being better while staying dangerous. Earning forgiveness from someone who has every right to hate him. For the first time in his life, Kang Yuchan doesn't know if he can win. But he knows he has to try. 2 months pass in careful silence. Naomi doesn't return to the Crimson Lotus. Doesn't answer Yuchan's messages. Has drawn a line in the sand and refuses to cross back. But she watches. From a distance, she monitors the news. Tracks the whispers in Seoul's underworld. Follows the ripples of change spreading through the Biko clan. Because Kang Yuchan is keeping his word. The first sign comes 3 weeks after their confrontation. A news report about a community center opening in Gangnam. Funded by an anonymous donor. Built on the exact site where the warehouse once stood. Where Marcus Chen died. The center offers job training for former gang members. Resources for people trying to leave the life. A second chance for those the system usually discards. Naomi recognizes the message immediately. This is Yuchan's apology. Written in concrete and possibility. It doesn't bring Marcus back. But it means his death will save others. The second sign comes a month later. Reports of the Biko clan pulling back from certain territories. Reducing violent enforcement. Shifting toward legitimate business operations. The changes aren't dramatic. Yuchan's organization is still dangerous, still powerful. But the edges have softened. The body count has dropped. It's not redemption. But it's a start. Then comes the night everything explodes. The Crimson Lotus is packed when the Jang Syndicate makes their move. 5 men.
Armed.
Pushing through the crowd with purpose. They're not here for territory or money. They're here for blood. Because word has spread through Seoul's underworld that Kang Yuchan has gone soft. That he's changing the rules. That he's vulnerable. And in their world, vulnerability is fatal. The first gunshot cracks through the music like thunder. Screams erupt. Bodies surge toward exits. Chaos blooms instantly. Yuchan moves on instinct. Vaults over furniture as bullets shatter bottles behind him. His security detail returns fire from multiple positions. The gunfight is brief and brutal. When silence falls, 3 attackers are down. The other 2 have fled. But the damage is done. 6 civilians injured. 2 seriously. And among the wounded, helping a bleeding bartender apply pressure to a gunshot wound, is Naomi Chen. Yuchan sees her across the destroyed club. Their eyes meet through the haze of gun smoke and fear. She shouldn't be here. Shouldn't have come back. But here she is anyway. Hours later, after police statements and paramedic visits, after the injured have been transported and the dead removed, Yuchan finds her on the rooftop terrace. She stands at the railing, staring out at Seoul's glittering lights. Blood on her clothes from the wounded bartender. "You came back," he says. "I heard the shots from 3 blocks away." She doesn't turn around. Recognize the sound. Couldn't just walk away. "You could have been killed. So could you." Now, she looks at him. That's the point, isn't it? This is what your world looks like. No matter how many community centers you build or territories you abandon, violence follows you like a shadow. The observation cuts because it's true. "The Jang Syndicate thinks I'm weak," Yuchan says quietly. "They're testing me, seeing if the changes I've made have softened my teeth." Have they? He considers the question. Considers the 3 bodies being loaded into the coroner's van downstairs. "I'm still standing," he says finally. "They're not." That's not an answer. It's the only answer my world understands. Naomi turns back to the city view. Then maybe it's time to find a different world. The suggestion hangs between them. Impossible and tempting in equal measure. "I can't just walk away," Yuchan says. "Too many people depend on me. Too many enemies would see it as weakness. And too much power to give up?" She challenges. "That too," he admits. "I won't lie about what I am, Naomi. I'm not a good man trying to do bad things. I'm a bad man trying to do slightly less bad things. There's a difference." Is there? You tell me. You've been watching, tracking the changes. Did they matter? Or am I still the monster who killed your brother? The tension here is unbelievable, but there's still one more twist coming. What do you think our protagonist should do? Wrong answers only in the comments. Naomi is quiet for a long time. When she finally speaks, her voice carries the weight of months of grief and observation and impossible choices. "You're not a monster," she says. "Monsters don't question themselves.
Don't try to change.
Don't build community centers on graves." She pauses, struggling with the words. "But you're not a hero either. You're just a man trapped in a system that rewards violence and punishes mercy. And I don't know if that system can ever change enough to let you be anything else." So, where does that leave us? I don't know. She turns to face him fully. "I came to Seoul to destroy you. Spent 18 months building a cover, gathering evidence, preparing for revenge." Her eyes glisten in the city lights. But revenge doesn't fill the hole Marcus left. Doesn't give me back the brother, who used to call me every Sunday. Doesn't undo 3 years of grief. What would? Yuchan asks. What would make this right? Nothing. The word comes out broken. That's the truth you don't want to hear. There's no amount of change or penance or community centers that makes murder acceptable.
Marcus is gone.
And I have to live with that forever. She takes a shaking breath. But I also have to live with this. You're trying. In a world that doesn't reward trying, in a system that punishes softness, you're attempting to be better. And maybe that's all anyone can do. Yuchan moves closer. Close enough to see tears on her cheeks. "I can't give you your brother back," he says quietly. "Can't undo the past. Can't even promise I won't make similar choices in the future when survival demands it." He pauses, choosing his next words carefully. "But I can promise that Marcus Chen will never be just another forgotten name. That his death will mean something. That every person the community center saves is a life he helped rescue." Pretty words, Naomi says. But without the venom this time. Then watch me prove them. Not just tonight. Not just this month. For however long it takes. That might be forever. Then forever. The promise hangs between them. Fragile and genuine. Naomi reaches out, touches his face with blood-stained fingers. "I don't forgive you," she says softly. "I don't know if I ever will. But I see you trying. And maybe that's enough to build on." Build what? I don't know yet. A sad smile touches her lips. Something that doesn't erase the past, but doesn't let it define the future. Something honest, even if it's complicated. Everything about us is complicated. Yes. She drops her hand. But I'm tired of simple. Simple is pretending you're just a monster. Simple is believing revenge solves grief. Simple is walking away and never looking back. Her eyes hold his. I want complicated. Want the messy truth of who you are and what you've done and what you might become. Want to see if a bad man can actually change. Want to find out if my brother's death can mean something more than just pain. Yuchan pulls her close. She doesn't resist. They stand there on the rooftop while sirens wail below. While Seoul's underworld processes the night's violence. While both their worlds shift beneath their feet. This won't be easy, he warns. Nothing worth doing ever is. People will judge you for staying. Let them. Her voice gains strength. They didn't lose what I lost. Didn't spend 18 months hunting for truth. Didn't see you try to change a system designed to resist change. She pulls back slightly to look at him. I'm not staying because I forgive you. I'm staying because I choose to believe people can be more than their worst moments. That systems can shift. That death can lead to something other than more death. And if I fail, if the violence pulls me back, then I walk away with my evidence and my clear conscience. But until that happens, I'm giving you the chance you're giving yourself. It's not forgiveness, not love, not even trust yet, but it's possibility. And possibility is more than either of them expected. 3 months later, the Crimson Lotus reopens. Rebuilt. Redesigned. Still dangerous, still exclusive, but different somehow. The VIP section is smaller. The security more visible. The atmosphere less predatory. And behind the main bar, mixing drinks with the same precision that first caught Yuchan's attention, is Naomi Chen. She's not there as his prop or his prize or his redemption project. She's there because she chose to be. Because complicated truth is better than simple lies. Because watching someone try to change is more interesting than watching them stay static. The women who once competed for Yuchan's attention have largely moved on. Found other powerful men to orbit. Other games to play. They never understood what made Naomi different. It wasn't that she refused him. It was that she saw him completely, his violence and his attempts at change, his power and his limitations, his past crimes and his present efforts, and chose to stay anyway. Not despite his darkness. Not because of his light. But because of the complicated space between. That night, Yuchan sits at the bar. Same seat as always. Naomi places a drink before him without being asked. It's not whiskey this time. Not the black drink she made when she was cataloging his sins. It's something new. Clear liquid with herbs suspended in perfect ice. Bitter and sweet. Complicated. What is it, he asks. A work in progress. She meets his eyes. Like everything else. He sips slowly. The flavors unfold on his tongue. Challenging, but not unpleasant. Sharp but balanced. It's perfect, he says honestly. A real smile touches her lips. The first genuine one he's seen in months. Not perfect, but better than it was. And somehow, in that moment, they both understand she's not talking about the drink. She's talking about them. About this fragile thing they're building. About the possibility that bad men can try to be better and grieving women can choose hope over revenge. It's not a fairy tale ending. There's no magic that erases Yuchan's crimes or resurrects Naomi's brother. But it's real. Messy and complicated and honest and real. And sometimes, real is the best redemption anyone gets. Seoul's night wraps around them. The Crimson Lotus pulses with life. And for the first time in 3 years, Naomi Chen feels like she can breathe without the weight of vengeance crushing her chest. She hasn't forgiven. But she's learning to live. And Kang Yuchan, watching her work with that same devastating precision, realizes something profound. He spent his whole life collecting power, building empires, controlling territory. But the only thing worth having is the thing he almost destroyed. The chance to be seen completely and chosen anyway. The possibility of becoming more than his worst moments. The complicated, difficult, beautiful truth of being human. Even in a world that rewards monsters. 6 months after the Crimson Lotus reopened, Seoul experiences an unusual spring. Cherry blossoms bloom earlier than expected. The air carries warmth that feels like promise. And in the carefully rebuilt space where violence once ruled, something unexpected takes root.
Hope.
Not the naive kind that ignores reality, but the hard-won hope that comes from choosing possibility over certainty. From building something fragile in hostile soil and watching it survive anyway. Naomi stands behind her bar on a Thursday evening, not because she has to, because she wants to. The Crimson Lotus has become more than just Yuchan's club. It's become a space where Seoul's underworld and legitimate business intersect with slightly less bloodshed. Where deals are made over handshakes instead of threats. Where the rules are shifting slowly towards something that resembles civilization. It's not perfect. Violence still erupts occasionally. Old habits die hard in a world built on force. But it's better. And better is enough. Yuchan sits at his usual seat, watching her work with the same fascination he had 8 months ago. But the obsession has matured into something deeper. Respect mixed with genuine care. Attraction tempered by understanding. "What are you thinking?" Naomi asks, setting his drink down. A new creation. She's always experimenting, always pushing boundaries. "That I was wrong about almost everything," he says. Elaborate. He takes a sip. The cocktail is complex, layered, surprising. Like her. "I thought power was about control. About making people fear you enough to obey. About building an empire so vast that nothing could touch you." He sets down the glass carefully. "But real power is this. Being vulnerable enough to change. Strong enough to admit fault. Brave enough to build something new even when the old ways are easier." Naomi studies him with those penetrating eyes that first made him feel truly seen. "You're learning," she says softly. "That's more than most people in your position ever do. I had a good teacher. I didn't teach you anything. I just refused to lie about what I saw." Exactly. He smiles. In a world of beautiful lies, ugly truth is revolutionary. She returns his smile, then moves away to serve other customers. They've found their rhythm. Moments of connection interspersed with space. Honesty balanced with boundaries. The complicated dance of two people building something that exists outside traditional categories. Not quite lovers. Not quite friends. Not quite allies. Something entirely their own. Later that night, after closing, they find themselves on the rooftop again. It's become their place. Where conversations happen without pretense. Where soul spreads below them like a galaxy of possibilities. "Do you ever regret it?" Yuchan asks. "Staying? Choosing this over revenge?" Naomi considers the question carefully. "Every day," she admits. "And never." At his confused look, she continues. "Every day I wonder if I'm betraying Marcus by not destroying you. If I'm compromising my principles by accepting that justice isn't always black and white. If I'm fooling myself into believing people can really change." She pauses, looking out at the city. "But I also see the community center. See the former gang members getting second chances. See you struggling to be better even when it costs you power. And I think maybe this is justice. Not the dramatic kind that movies sell us, but the slow, difficult kind that actually changes systems. And if I slip, if the old patterns reassert themselves, then I walk away with my evidence and my clear conscience. But until that happens, I'm betting on your ability to grow." It's the same answer she gave months ago, but the certainty in her voice has deepened.
She believes him now.
Not blindly, but genuinely. And that belief, Yuchan realizes, is the most valuable thing anyone has ever given him. "Thank you," he says quietly. "For what?" "For seeing the worst of me and staying anyway. For demanding I be better. For making me want to deserve you." Naomi turns to face him fully. "You don't have to deserve me, Yuchan. You just have to be honest. About who you are, what you've done, and where you're trying to go. That's all anyone can really ask." He pulls her close. She fits against him like she was designed for this exact space. They stand there in comfortable silence. Two people who should never have worked finding a way to make it work anyway. Below them, Seoul pulses with life. Above them, Stars struggle to shine through city lights. And between them, something real takes root. Not perfect, not simple,
But theirs.
So what does this story teach us? First, that people are rarely just villains or heroes. Most of us exist in the complicated space between, capable of both cruelty and growth, both selfishness and sacrifice. Kang Yuchan started as a monster, a man who killed without remembering, who built empires on bodies and erasure. But he also had the capacity to change, to look at his reflection and recognize something worth salvaging, to choose difficult growth over comfortable stagnation. That doesn't excuse his past. Nothing can. But it suggests that past doesn't have to define future. Second, that revenge, however justified, rarely fills the holes loss creates. Naomi could have destroyed Yuchan, had the evidence, had the motive, had every legal and moral right to watch his world burn. But she recognized something crucial. Her brother's death was a tragedy. Making it define her entire future would be a second tragedy. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't pursuing vengeance. It's choosing to live fully despite the pain, to build something new from the ashes of what was lost. Third, that change is possible but never easy. Yuchan didn't wake up one day and become a good man. He's still dangerous, still operates in morally gray spaces, still makes choices that would horrify most people. But he's trying, incrementally, imperfectly, genuinely trying. And sometimes trying is enough. Fourth, that love isn't always romantic. Sometimes it's just two people choosing each other despite every rational reason not to. Naomi and Yuchan aren't a fairy tale. They're a case study in complicated care, in seeing someone fully and deciding they're worth the risk anyway. Their relationship challenges the binary thinking our culture loves. You don't have to forgive someone to build a future with them. You don't have to forget their crimes to recognize their growth. You just have to be honest about who they are and who you need them to become. Finally, that systems change slowly. One decision at a time. One choice at a time. One person at a time, deciding that the old ways aren't inevitable. The Crimson Lotus is still a hub of Seoul's underworld. Yuchan still runs an organization built on force and fear. But the edges are softer now. The violence less casual. The consideration for human life more present. It's not redemption, but it's movement in the right direction. And movement matters. As we close this story, I want you to think about your own life. Where are you choosing comfortable patterns over difficult growth? Where are you letting past pain define future possibilities? Where might forgiveness, or at least understanding, create space for something new? These aren't easy questions. They don't have simple answers. But they're worth asking. Because we're all a little like Yuchan, carrying histories we'd rather forget, making choices we can't undo, hoping we're capable of being better than our worst moments. And we're all a little like Naomi, hurt by systems we didn't create, choosing between justified anger and uncertain hope, trying to honor the past while building a livable future. The question isn't whether we're heroes or villains. It's whether we're brave enough to exist in the complicated space between and keep trying anyway. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know. Do you think Naomi made the right choice? Could you forgive someone who hurt you if they genuinely tried to change? What would you do in her position? And if this story moved you, challenged you, or made you think differently about redemption and revenge, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear that change is possible even in the darkest circumstances. Subscribe if you haven't already, because next week, we're diving into another story that will completely challenge your assumptions. I'm talking about a tech billionaire, a whistleblower with everything to lose, and a conspiracy that goes deeper than anyone imagined.
Trust me.
You don't want to miss it. To everyone who made it this far, thank you. Seriously. These videos take hours of research, writing, and production. Your time and attention mean everything. The fact that you stuck around for this entire journey tells me you value depth over quick entertainment, complexity over simple answers, real human stories over sanitized fantasies. And that's exactly the community I'm building here. So whether you're Team Yuchan, Team Naomi or team, it's complicated and that's the point. Welcome. You belong here. Until next time, remember, we're all works in progress. The question isn't whether we're perfect, it's whether we're trying. And trying, as this story shows, is enough.
See you next week.